Hello, everybody. This is uh, this is my tribute to my friend Sebastian, who really likes birds. So, uh, what can I say about birds? They have wings, they have feathers, they're cute, and they make good noises. And specifically for this video, I have looked up a 24/7 cat TV, birds for cats to watch. I'm not a cat, but it is a live feed of birds, and I think that's neat. Anyway, all right. So I have a friend. His name's Sebastian. He's a really nice guy. He's a good local. I hope you guys can hear the birds. It's really important to me that you can hear the birds. I'm gonna raise them in the mix. But anyway, so he said, I really want to play Hawks, Bromley. Can you help me build a Hawks deck? And I had seen some Hawks decks play. Most of them are playing like, trying to make an indiscriminate shock for big and lethal and also fast because that's what Hawks does. Or they're on the evil symbol and they were just like, I don't know, man, here's evil symbol stuff. And I didn't think those were very good. I don't think that showdown is enough in this format. There's a lot of anti-committal going around, and also with Capture Evil Doers gone, I think action cancel is not quite as important as it was. Of course, it's good to have an answer to Barrier Shield as the character who wants to put tons and tons of speed onto things, but the big thing to me was I asked him what he wanted to do with it, and he said I want to attack with feathers. And so I said, hey, we should be playing training weights. And even better than that, on the good symbol, we get this new Jiro's base thing. And on the turn where we go in and have our Feather Storm that are giving tons and tons of speed to things, our Jiro's base can be giving piles of stats onto stuff. And I think that's really neat. And that's what this deck does very, very well. You can also see some other things going into it. But let's get right into the non-attack, non-foundations. First up is the Fierce Wings and Airy Smiles. This is a lot more than I would non-attack, non-foundations than I would play in a six-hander. But he doesn't function quite like a normal six-hander. And the good symbol has tons of tools to help us even when we're drawing weird with our ratios. You can see that we are still over half foundations as opposed to non-foundations. But I will say that, this is a deck that is allowed to do this thing because Fierce Wings counts as whatever we want, right? A lot of times I'll be playing a Feather, offensively just to play Fierce Wings and tutor up whatever foundation or asset I want for the turn. It's not just to go pick up Airy Smiles. It's not just another copy of Feather. It's a very, very insane power card because it picks up the best foundation in your yard to build with as well. And I think that's really cool. Airy Smiles is, I think, one of the best blocks in this format now that Capture Evildoers is gone. It functionally gives your opponent +1 difficulty for the turn, or they just sometimes you end their turn. I've had turns where my opponent used a bunch of latent skills, and then I Airy Smiles blocked, and they went, oh, I don't have any foundations left in my hand. I just discarded all of them. And that's really strong. I also really like it into Jiro because after they use their specialized sound waves, they often stack the 6 check, and you get to say, hey, man, I'll block on a 6, and then you get to just neuter their turn, right? You get to say, hey, you have to play a foundation, clear that 6 check off the top of your deck, and now you're on, you're blind. You're playing like a regular mortal. And I think that's very, very cool and very neat. I already talked about the Jiro's base and the training weights thing, but I'll go into it again. These are here for the deep strings with the feathers. With them feathers. Those Roger Federers, okay? The feathers themselves come in at 1 mid 3s. If you have a Feather Storm, they're 3 mid 3s. Training weights make them progressively more and more big. And we have tons and tons of foundations and things like that help us to use this. One of the cute tricks in the deck is we can use the training weights along with Friend of Animals to give +2 plus X. X equals how many times we use the training weights in the turn. And because of Featherstorm and things like Dance Routine giving +1 speed, and Hawks reacting for an additional speed, Jiro's base is usually online for the +1/+3. So it makes it so that our attacks, not just the feathers, but every attack on the deck can be very, very big. Getting into the attacks, I talked about the feathers, but this card is just it's so versatile. It's such a strange move. I've never seen anything like it in UFS before. I'm sure there have been one difficulty moves before, but Jasko was very, very gun shy about 3 diffs, so it made sense they didn't want to play any 1 diffs either. But this move in this character specifically can be very, very threatening because we get to use it with feather control and attack our opponent 5, 6, 7 times before we even get to some of the more threatening cards in the deck. And I think that's really, really powerful. There's very few decks that can deal with this, with the offense in this deck. It's just it's a very crazy turn when you end up actually playing it. And for that reason, I play Featherstorm in it as well at a 4x. This is a card that warps the turn. If you have Featherstorm into Feathers, it makes it so that you are not playing with progressive on this turn where you're playing a bunch of two difficulty moves. So even if you're getting Breaker 2 blocked mid, you're like, yeah, whatever, on a 2, and you continue with your turn. It's really strong. And we'll get to some of the other things this gets to do, but the card pool enhanced by itself is just insanely powerful. It makes it so that our printed fast moves in this deck get even faster. It by itself is a 6/6 in the character, and that's really, really strong. Very, very powerful. Big fan. Yeah, anyway, that's the sort of the meat and potatoes. This is what most of our kill strings will be composed of, is Featherstorm, along with maybe a feather that we had from a sculpt, and then 2 more feathers from hand, going deep with feather controls and things like that. Tasty Riv. This is one of the coolest cards in the game right now. After we've attacked them 7 times, one of the things that we're going to be down on is cards in hand, but they're also going to be down on cards in hand typically. So we can pretty reliably get a Tasty Rift to connect, and if it does, we draw 3 more cards, we get 3 more counters. If we play another Tasty Rift, we get to draw more cards, and it's just very strong. It works in concert with the training weights and Jiro's base because it's so fast printed, and it makes it so that we can just, you know, reliably seal the deal after a feather, if they by some chance are still alive after a feather. I Won't Back Down supports the Tasty Rift. It's a nice little poke early game, along with Pigeon Flock and Feather Sword Slash. These are the 3 cards that I will use on turn 2 or 3 to just get some card advantage back while I'm trying to pressure my opponent a little bit. And so typically this card gets blocked, but we can very, very easily make all these cards high and swap the stats so that they're threatening us to make your opponent want to block, so you can get those counters and draw more cards. Feather Sword Slash I really like as its own thing because it's a 1 high block that we get to grip, and that's important for us because Hawks makes 1 move high. And this also tutors for a Hawks' feather. You'll notice I'm not playing the 4-check foundation that puts a feather into the yard because I think it's just too slow and unreliable. But this card can act as a buffer for those games where the feathers are all on the bottom of the deck. Which you can still survive. It's not like the end of the world, but I like that it goes and tutors up a feather because sometimes you'll be able to poke with one, and get your 3rd or 4th feather to play a really, really, truly disgusting string. Command Pigeon Flock is here to build in friend of animals, to be honest. But sometimes after like Tasty Riffs and things like that, you can get a really, really big one, which is kind of neat. But of all the attacks in the deck, I think this and Cannon Blast are the ones I'm least convinced of, and I could easily see myself going down to 16 or 15 attacks because this deck doesn't need this very many. I'm going to talk about Cannon Blast if we're talking about the United States Smash. This card just wears stats by itself really, really well. We're able to give it tons and tons of speed before swapping the stats and then giving it 6 more damage with its own enhances. This thing can very easily come in for 15 plus damage, and that's scary. It's very, very scary. And along the same vein, United States of Smash is gigantic in this deck. I'll posit a situation for you. You've got 8 foundations. 2 of them are Friend of Animals. 1 of them is Dance Routine. Okay, so we play United States of Smash. We can't play any more cards for the turn. Bully on that. That's okay. You first enhance, commit 5 foundations, get 5 speed. We committed 2 Friend of Animals. We got 4 more speed. So this is getting 9 speed off the top. It's a 13 high 10. Pretty strong. Very, very cool. Okay, that's fine. We can even respond Hawks. Give it 1 more speed. 14 high 10. Use the Dance Routine. Plus 1 more speed. 15 high 10. Maybe there's a Featherstorm in our card pool. Give it 1 more speed. 16 high 10. Okay, cool. Now we've got 3 feathers on our hand. Plus 2 speed. Plus 2 speed. Plus 2 speed. It's a 22 high 10. Okay? And you can sort of see where I'm going here. You can now use Jiro's base for plus 1 plus 3. It's a 23 high 10 or 23 high 13. We can use training weights. How many times have we used that? Oh, we'll hold on to it actually because we're going to Hawks to swap the stats. And now it's a 13 high 23. Tap training weights. We've used it once. That's okay. It's for 25 damage. 13 high 23. This is a card that becomes gigantic, and it's how I seal the deal against a lot of greedy decks that think I can't kill them from full without a really, really deep string. And the cool thing about this is that Hawk's Feathers aren't played. You just add them to card pool for cost. So it allows us to use our Hawk's Feathers and Dance Routines and Featherstorms, just resources that don't require our foundations to be ready. It's certainly a Hail Mary, so you want to make sure that your opponent doesn't have anything that can, mess with this. If you're playing the Barrier Shield, you're just not going to play this card against them. But it's a game ender in a lot of scenarios, and I think that's so neat. I love this big, dumb, powerful attack killing people. I think it's so cool. Talking about the foundations, I already talked about dance routine. I already talked about feather control. But one of the things this deck does insanely well is kill people in deadlock. If they go into deadlock by like a tiny millimeter, big three and feather control are warping. It just makes it so that they're not allowed to go to deadlock against the deck, and I think that's neat. But this card picks up your non-action card with a printed tool to do one for your card pool hand, and that's really cool because a lot of the one diffs of the deck have really strong block modifiers. Um, Adorable Telepath being able to get picked up again, Self Sacrifice being able to get picked up again, Juro's Base being able to get picked up again, Hawk's Feather. We have 1 and 2 plus block modifiers in each zone to pick up with Feather Control on defense in a pinch. And I think that's neat. New Trading Method, I mean, I've talked about New Trading Method in a lot of other videos. It's just one of the best foundations of the game for getting to a deep string build, or a deep build turn. Keeping area safe, I think it's just really good card. We can't pick it up. We cannot pick it up with feather control, but having answers to stun is a really important thing in this format. Friend of Animals is momentum, which is very good to fuel either Jiro's base or the training weights. You can also use that momentum for powerful on Featherstorm. And that's cool. But most of the time, I'm using to fuel training weights or Jiro's base, and also it committing for cost on the Feather Sword Slash and the training weights in hand can be very strong by itself too. Self Sacrifice is a 1 low block. You do need low blocks in this character. Don't 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 think just because you can make one thing high you don't need any low blocks. This is a good card, and also it's +1 damage on your feathers for the turn, which can be very strong by itself too. Peasant Lurch draws a card. It's good. Enough said. It can't be fixed. Yeah, 1 high block. For the same reason why we want to have a 1 low block, we want a 1 high block. Really strong. Big three. This card's so cool. I have turns sometimes where I'll play a Tasty Riff and I'll go feather 9 high 3, and then and then they draw a bunch of cards. And I can play another attack and draw more cards. Very cool. Even on defense, you'll be able to draw some cards because you'll be blocking with feathers and things like that. But in deadlock, it's truly crazy because your feathers become low or they become high or whatever the case might be, and that's really strong too. And once you're done attacking with the feathers, you can flip this over and try to find more attacks. Always cool. I think is a really neat card. I play it over my over oh, there's a set 1 reset that I just don't play anymore because I play this card. It says, hey, after you play an attack, you can't modify the damage of it, and I think that's neat. It's very neat. It alone with the United States Smash is kind of neat because you can do the swap without having any feathers in hand, and you can make a 10 high 10. But yeah, strong card, big fan. Heroic Assistance. This is great stun hate, and also the deadlock is relevant. But it's an ally that I can build in matchups where I need more stun hate. Lost in Thought. It's a great card. I would probably pay more of it, honestly. The few situations where I felt like I couldn't punch my opponent to death were ones where they had like denial for feather control, and being able to deny their board piece is an important one. And then finally, Adorable Telepath is one that I think it's the cutest one of in this character. You get to pick it up and give an attack -1 speed, respond with Hawks for -1 more speed. And even though it has a 3 high block modifier, it by itself represents -2 speed with our character. And having an on-demand high block is really strong. And you know the response is it's negligible, but you -1 damage can matter. We're never using the +1, but anyway. But yeah, that's my Hawks deck. I think you guys would like it. You can see the sideboard. I still have BMI Buster because I haven't changed this very much. I haven't looked at the sideboard since Capture Evildoers was banned, but if I was to play competitively right now, I would play this deck. I think this deck is so much fun. I think it's incredibly resilient. It's very hard to kill, and it's a lot of fun to play. I probably just said that already. Anyway, it's a lot of fun to play. I'll see you guys later. Thanks for hanging out.